So the Apple products that I was looking to buy were the iPhone 17 Pro Max 256 gigabytes, the iPad Air 11-inch 128 gigabytes, and to go with the iPad Air, the Apple Pencil Pro. It was essential that I didn't think or buy locally. For this exercise, you have to think and buy globally. So check prices globally. A very, very good site is theappleindex.com. So www.appleindex.com. So one of the products I wanted to buy was the iPhone 17 Pro Max, 256 gigabytes. Went on to appleindex.com, and that enabled me to see it ranked countries from cheapest to most expensive for buying this particular model of that phone. You can see that Japan, it was £910. Many of the cheapest countries were in Asia, Southeast Asia and Asia. So for me, the relevant comparison was with the United Kingdom, where the phone cost £1,200. That's almost a third more expensive than in Japan. Continuing down the list, the price becomes progressively more expensive, and in the case of Turkey, it is more than double that in Japan. I also wanted to replace my iPad Pro. I decided that this time around I would buy an iPad Air 11-inch with 128 gigabytes of storage and just the Wi-Fi version. The cheapest country for this was Hong Kong, where it would cost the equivalent of £436. And note the price in the UK, which is £599, which is over £160 more expensive than in Hong Kong. So massive, massive potential for savings. For me, the headline, i.e. store saving, was an enormous £485, which is the difference between buying the three items in the UK at a price of £1,927 versus buying the same three items in South Korea for £1,442. Fortunately for me, I already had a trip to South Korea planned. But the savings don't stop there, because in South Korea, foreigners pay no sales tax. There's a 10% sales tax on purchases in South Korea, which foreigners can claim back when they leave at the airport. So when you're in the store and you tell the seller that you are traveling out, you're leaving the country, they will give you a special receipt, and that will enable you to claim the 10% sales tax back, which then extends the potential saving for me to £533.50. However, in practice, the tax saving is slightly less than 10%. And this is because to process the tax refund on your behalf, there are agencies like Global Blue and also Global Tax Free. Global Blue I used last year, and Global Tax Free I used this year, as well as Global Blue. And to process the tax refund on your behalf, they will take a fee. So they will take a fee of 2.5% of the 10% tax refund, so that there's a net amount tax saving of 7.5%, which they will either credit your credit card, or they'll give to you when you're leaving the airport. So the third source of saving is your old tech. You must, if you're buying a new tech, new telephone, a new iPad, in my case, then if I've got those already, I need to sell them. So sell them. I had, in my case, an old iPhone 16 Pro Max, 256 gigabytes, which I bought in Seoul in 2025. And I also had an old iPad Pro 11-inch, which was a Wi-Fi only version, also 256 gigabytes. So I had these two, and I could sell them. There are two options for recycling or selling them. One is sell online to a recycling company, and the second was to sell privately online via, for example, eBay. So the recycling company in the UK, there are, if you look on the internet, there are an awful lot of companies that will buy your old tech. And the way this works is that you, in my case, I send in my phone or iPad to a seller and I say, it's got a list price, it's got an offer price. Depending on the condition, I will send my items to them free of charge. That's one of the attractive things. So you send the items in free of charge, then they will examine the products beforehand, and then if it's as good as you think and hope, they'll offer you that price. But obviously, because these companies are receiving items from a lot of different sellers like myself, they are highly informed. So they know what a good product looks like and what it doesn't. But even if they've said, look, we'll offer you £600 for your iPhone, often they will not offer that to you straight off the bat. They might offer you £300 for your iPhone, hoping that you will sell at £300, because then that extends their profit. So if you're not happy with the £300, you can try negotiating with them and saying, look, I'm not happy, you need to improve the offer. They might improve the offer to £400, and you say, well, I'm still not happy. They might then improve it to £500, and it goes on like that. We might just say, look, send me my item back. So one of the strengths of these companies is that they can exploit the seller desire to convert the unwanted item into cash. Because every time you send it to one of these companies and then they examine it, if you're not happy and you ask them to send it back, that could be more than a week. And then you've got to package it again and send it off to another company and get their view, get their bid for the item. So if you're repeatedly sending items off to be valued by different companies, it's very time consuming, and you might just reach a point where you say, okay, I will just accept your offer. So those are the recycling companies, and you can look on the internet in your own countries to see which companies offer that service, offer to buy your old tech. The other option is selling privately via, for example, eBay. And in my particular case, this year in 2026, I did not use this option, and I kind of kicked myself afterwards because I think I would have achieved a much higher price for my old tech for those two items, the iPhone and the iPad, than I received from sending them to recyclers. So the nice thing about eBay is that it's effectively buyers advertised. So I will put my phone up, my tech, describe what it looks like, whether it's in good condition, excellent condition, the capacity. You can advertise the battery capacity as well, because my old iPhone had 97% battery capacity. So in the year that I'd had it, it only diminished by 3%, which is very, very good. So it's about buyers advertised. The other thing is that when you're selling them to individuals on eBay, those individuals are not as highly informed as the recyclers. So they probably won't have the tech to examine the innards of the telephone. You can put it in an auction on a platform like eBay so that many individuals can bid competitively and visibly to others, which is great, because with the recyclers sending it to an individual company, other companies can't see your tech, and that company, as I said in the example earlier on, they may offer you £300, but if other recycling companies could see your item, they may well bid up to £600. So this is the nice thing about selling things privately via the auction process on eBay. And of course, the buyers can't use any time pressure against sellers, because you're not having to go through this tortuous circle of packaging, sending things off, waiting for them to be examined. Then, if you're not happy, waiting for the item to be returned, perhaps having to be at home to receive the stuff via the post. So you don't have that kind of time pressure on sellers on eBay. The person who bids the most will buy the product as advertised, and you'll send it off to them and receive your money. Great. So I think the selling privately is the best option to secure the highest recycling price. And it's just as with cars. For example, if you take a car to a garage, the garage will probably give you less for your car than if you sold the car privately. So I ended up with a huge 60% saving. If I had bought the three products, the iPhone, the iPad Air, and also the pencil, in the UK, I would have paid £1,992. But because I bought them in South Korea, I saved myself, on the Apple shop price, I saved myself £485. Then, because I could claim the tax refund, I also gained £108 from the tax refund. Then when I sold my old tech, the old iPhone from 2025, plus my old iPad, I got £600 from one of the recyclers. And I think, as I've said, if I had sold them via eBay, I could probably have made at least, I would have said, at least another £100. So in the end, the amount of cash that left my pocket to buy those three items, the iPhone 17 Pro Max, the iPad Air 11-inch Wi-Fi, and also the Apple Pencil. The actual amount that eventually left my pocket was £799, and that compares to the £1,992 that I would have paid in the UK, and if I had just ignored, left my put the old tech in the drawer at home. So a lot of money to be made on buying tech abroad. The saving was more than enough to pay for my flight from London to Seoul. Even after paying for the flight and the hotel, I still had money left over. So a big gain. So my recommendations then: be aware of huge differences in country prices of Apple products. As we saw earlier on, if you buy some tech in Japan, you're going to pay less than half the price of buying the same tech in Turkey. So, if I lived in Turkey, indeed, wherever I live, I'm going to try to align purchases of any new Apple products I'm interested in with my foreign travel. Because if I'm going to the country in any case, if I'm going to Malaysia, or if I'm going to India, or if I'm going to China or Japan or South Korea or America, if I'm going there in any case, then what I should be doing is looking at the tech I am currently using, the Apple tech. And if the Apple tech is old, it's really worth your while to, when you go on holiday, when you're going to visit these places, just looking to buy new Apple products whilst you're there. And in an ideal world, to maximise the tax refund, buy in a tax-free sale countries. So countries where there are no agencies like Global Blue, etc. And I would point out Japan in this respect, because in the past I've gone to Tokyo and gone to an Apple store there and purchased tax-free, so I get the full 10%. In Japan, there's not a 2.5% that's going to the agency. So just something to bear in mind. And the recycling benefit, that old tech that you have at home, consider selling it. And consider selling it privately through a platform like eBay, rather than through the large recycling companies, because they can grind you down with lowballing you. It's a bit like going to Marrakesh and going into the souk. They will absolutely try to screw you over on price. And I would point out that last year, when I was selling my iPhone 13, one recycling company offered me £70 for my iPhone 13 Pro, but I eventually sold it to another company which offered me £200 for it. So you get enormous differences between companies, but it's this whole iterative process of making your products visible to all of these companies. It's time consuming.